On this Tuesday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, even though the season didn't end how some would have wanted, Cody and I take a look at the encouraging outlook for the future and how will the Texans' success impact free agency.
You are Locked On Texans, your daily Houston Texans podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, Texans fans across the nation, across the world, Spain, even.
Yes, sir.
Shout out to all of the Texans fans. Welcome into this Tuesday episode of the Locked On Texans podcast, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Boy, do we have a good conversational show set up for you guys today. If this is your first time checking us out, make sure that you do us a favor, subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast, but specifically YouTube. We got a number we're trying to reach, and it's if this is your second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time, however many times you return back, you are a family and friend of the show. Thank you for stopping back and lending your ears as Cody and I continue to talk Texans, your team, on this Tuesday every day. I'm your Texans football analyst, John, some sports guy Hickman. And you see, I got the Texas jersey on. If you're listening, I got a Texas University of Texas jersey on. So I know how it feels to have premature heartbreak on a football season. But on the other side, Texas Credential Media member, Sports Illustrated's own Cody Davis. Got a very good conversational show set up for you guys today, as mentioned. How is the Houston Texans on the radar, right? How will the Texans' success this season impact free agency? And we look at an encouraging outlook to end off this year. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to get started. Cody, an encouraging outlook. What's that about?
Man, so with the Texans season coming to an end on Saturday, we had an opportunity to attend exit interviews for the Texans. And for those of you guys who don't know what exit interviews are, it's the season-ending interviews with, of course, the head coach, your franchise cornerstones. Of course, this year, thank God, it was CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. And then it was also locker cleanout day. So we had a final time, one last time, to go inside the locker room. We saw all the players, packing up their stuff. Of course, players wanted to talk. Players, wanted to make sure that their verse was heard. It didn't matter if there was a cornerstone player like CJ, Will Anderson Jr., Nico Collins, or players who can possibly work throughout the offseason to have a bigger impact next season, especially considering somebody like Jared Wayne. I had an opportunity to chop it up with him. He was talking about how committed he's going to be this offseason, basically just learning his body and improving his skill set. And speaking of Jared Wayne, he's one of, I think, 10 players that the Texans already signed to a future reserve roster, which means that they're going to sign him to a training camp roster. And look, I know all throughout this offseason,
Jared Wayne get some
exactly.
Love that, man.
Exactly. Majority, if not all of his snaps came on special teams. But look, throughout this whole entire offseason, we're definitely going to be talking about, what can the Houston Texans do to improve their wide receiving unit, give Jared Wayne an opportunity. And that's what he's going to be looking forward to. But John, this was the very first time since I started covering the Texans, man, that I can honestly say, and the fans, you should feel this way as well, that you should be excited about the future. And I said that because over the last two seasons, especially last year more than any year, exit interviews was just a gloomy day. Players really didn't want to talk. The players who did talk, like last year, Davis Mills, he's talking about how he's hoping that he did enough to maintain his starting job as the Houston Texans starting quarterback. You had Brandon Cooks, that whole fiasco going around. I remember Big Sarge asked him, how would you feel to continue the rebuild with the Houston Texans? And I remember Brandon Cooks saying he doesn't want to be a part of a rebuild. Brevin Jordan, nobody really knew what the outlook of what was in store for the Houston Texans future. Another head coaching search for the third time in 2-3 years. Majority of the players in that locker room, either they didn't want to come back or they kind of felt like they were stuck here and all that other good stuff. However, John, when I tell you exit interviews this year was a complete 180 from the previous 2 years, man, that shows you the trajectory of greatness that this franchise is on. I highlighted somebody in Brandon Cooks who we knew he was checked out. We knew he was ready to go last year. And now I'm looking at a situation where the business side of football is starting to take place. I look at Jonathan Grenard. I look at George Fant, two guys who are going to be real big key free agents for the Houston Texans for this upcoming offseason. Both of them on and off the record, telling us how much they love this franchise, how much they love this city, and how they want to continue building what they started here. And it all goes back to knowing that you have a head coach in D'Amico Ryans and you have two cornerstones on both sides of the ball in CJ Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. And I am more encouraged and excited to see what improvements they're going to make, because John, I understand that they were upset, disappointed, frustrated at the playoff loss against the Baltimore Ravens. However, I kind of feel like that's what they needed. And I want you guys to just listen to Will Anderson Jr. My favorite part of the exit interview was Will talking about how CJ lifted up his spirits after the game on Saturday when he was actually crying in the locker room.
Yeah, I was crying after the game, and he wasn't crying. And he came, he said, "You good? We good. We straight. We gonna be good next year." And I'm like, my bad. Cap said we're going to be good next year. So I dried my tears up, man, and I just looked at it from his perspective that he gave me after we talked. And he was just like, bro, like, just think about how much we've come from, like, how much better we're going to be next year, bro. Like, we're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, I appreciated Will for doing that, because, I mean, those are raw emotions. It wasn't like he was doing that, like, just to be fake. He really meant, because, I mean, he really, like, was feeling that because he really wanted to win that game. We all did. And something I've learned in this league, man, is, like, you can't let your emotions fluctuate. And I told Will, man, honestly, man, he's probably the most talented player, one of the most talented players I've ever been around in my life. I mean, we're going to be back in this moment. You can promise, I can promise you that. Like, it might not, I don't know when it's going to be, how it's going to be, who's going to be on this team, but we're going to get back. And I just want to let him know, man, like, I appreciated everything that he did for us that year. I just wanted to see his head up high, I just want to see him encouraged and positive.
The reason why that was my favorite moment that took place on Monday was the fact that you literally saw two of the Texans' cornerstone players. Hopefully, when I say cornerstones, I'm talking about 10, 15-year plus here in the city of Houston. But you saw both of those young guys, regardless of how much praise we gave both of those guys throughout their entire rookie season, they are motivated to come back better than ever. And that moment reminded me of the 2014 Golden State Warriors. After they lost Game 7 to the Los Angeles Clippers, Klay Thompson shared a story how he was crying after that loss because they wanted to win that series and move on to the next round so bad. Klay was crying, and Klay said that Steph walked up to him and said, "Hey, stop crying. Keep that feeling with you. We are about to be great." And we all know what started in 2015. The dynasty started. And I look at this situation, man, I think that's going to be a moment that we look back and say, this is where the Houston Texans, hopefully dynasty start. But, man, shout out to this team. Shout out to both of those players. Shout out to everybody that took part in the Texans throughout this whole entire season, man, because they're definitely on the path to greatness.
I kid you not. The Sunday, what happened, what went wrong episode, what we recorded Saturday night, went out Sunday, right? That had 190 comments. So you talk about encouraging outlook, Texans fans and listeners and viewers out there. Understand this. You got Ravens fans in the comments saying, my respect to you guys. As a Raven fan, trust me, we see y'all. This is another comment. I'm gonna just read the comments. As a Raven fan, the Texans are about to be an annual contending great team, including a fantastic quarterback and fantastic head coach.
Can I add something to that really quick?
You go ahead. Because another one, fellow Ravens fan, Just more shouting out. Then you got two Ravens fans going now. You're comparing a QB who's been in the league for a few years with the best wide receiving core and the fastest overall skill group in the NFL to a rookie QB playing for a team that was one of the worst teams in the league only last year and has a rookie head coach. Your argument makes no sense considering Stroud played at Ohio State. Laughing my ear off, bro. He's going to be fine. The Texans as a whole just weren't ready to play in this weather after playing the majority of their final games in dome or warm climates. You can't say that they can't handle cold climates because he played one bad game as a rookie. That's just ridiculous. So you got two Raven fans going at it. And one Ravens fan is telling you guys, hey, Stroud is real. The Texans are real. They'll be back. They'll be a contending team. That is an encouraging outlook.
And to prove your point even more, John, when I was leaving M&T Bank Stadium Saturday night, I had Ravens fans and Ravens workers, like stadium workers, coming up to me. Hey, you cover the Texans? Yeah. They are excited about the future of this team. And like, I've never been in a situation where the opposing team's fan, well, I'm going to just say in the situation in general, because that was my first playoff game series I ever covered. But I've never been in a situation where the opposing fan and opposing stadium workers or whatever the case might be, it's literally coming up to a reporter and just saying, I'm excited about the future of your team, man. It's remarkable, man. Real. And of course, I get it without a shadow of a doubt, man. Everything has to fall in place, in terms of health, development and all that other good stuff, man. But man, just thinking about where this team was 365 days ago, just this turnaround in 1 year, man, it's remarkable.
Ravens fans here. Raven fan here. This is from 600 Rush 6. Raven fan here. You're absolutely right about not being mad about losing to us. The future is as bright as the sun for you guys. The Texans are going to be a problem for years to come. No doubt about it. CJ is a stud. The future is encouraging. It's a very encouraging outlook to have right now if you are a part of this franchise, whether that's front office, player, more so fan base. Don't worry about it. We also will talk about how the Texans' success will impact the upcoming free agency and offseason altogether when we come back on the other side of the break. You don't want to miss it. So unfortunately, the Texan season is over. I get it. Got a lot to be upset about. Still got a lot to look forward to. But you do still have an opportunity to look forward to some great football. The NFC Championship game, Detroit. Shout out to Detroit, right? They haven't had this type of success in 30 years. The last time Detroit was relevant, I was born. So that just tell you how long of a drought they've been on. Then you got the San Francisco 49ers. The AFC Championship game, you got the 3-5 Bowl. Well, you don't know what 3-5 I'm talking about, but you got Lamar Jackson, you got Patrick Mahomes. That's going to be a fun matchup. There's still time to get in on the action. With FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets. Guaranteed when you place a $5 bet, that's $150 in your pocket, win or lose. The app is easy to use. There are many different ways to bet. Got live same game parlays. Find bets in the new Explore tab. Make a parlay in the Parlay Hub. The best way to find popular parlays and much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet. Walk in TD. FanDuel, the official partner of the NFL. Welcome back in, Locked On Texans listeners and viewers across the nation. I got an idea that I think would be great because you got Texan fans right now going back and forth on whether or not Houston should do this, should they do that, should they keep their picks, should they trade back, how much money should they spend? This is the fun time of the year. Cody, I love this time of the year when I can sit back, watch the film, and see, okay, this running back makes sense. This running back doesn't. This wide receiver fits.
Why are you picking running back? Why are you picking running back?
You know why I'm picking
why you highlight running back?
It's time to look at and invest into that running back group. But I think Texan fans, if you're in the Houston area, city of Houston, or wherever you are, you might be in Scotland, maybe in Spain, just get together, meet up, have a Texans combine between fans. Line it up, 1v1s, run your 40s, do the 225 bench press, who can get open, who can be the bench press coverage, do all of that. This is the perfect time to put your knowledge on the field because some of y'all are just too mad. But how can this is the question? Great question. So shout out to Cody for this question. How can the Texans' success this year, where they go 10-7, they win the division, they win a playoff game, how can that impact free agency this upcoming year, right? And I think, the positivity that will help the Texans move forward is great because the expectations around the league, as we just talked about with some of the comments, but the expectations around the league right now is that this team can be competitive and has a solid foundation for the first time in years. To all of my Vacation Bible School kids out there, Cody, I don't know if you was a VBS kid.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember the song? Do y'all remember the song? The wise man builds his house upon the rock.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans, Cal McNair, general manager Nick Caserio, the front office, D'Amico Ryans, these guys are now the wise men, right? They got an opportunity, and I think they will because they did it this year, to build a solid house on a solid foundation. What happens when you don't have a good foundation? If ignored, foundation problems can lead to several structural damages. Foundation can shift, crack, your walls start to crack, floors become uneven, and doors and windows stop functioning correctly. Your entire home can be out of alignment. And guys, if you've been covering this team, if you've been around this team for the past 5 years, the foundation of this franchise was cracked. Things started to leak. Floors started to break. Players started to leave. Pastors started to speak. And then you got all of that's going on. So I think internally, Houston is set up correctly. And then externally, the success was on the field. So I think that's how Houston can really be impactful this upcoming season, is because they got it right inside and outside. Again, this is the best foundation this franchise has had since 2011. And I think it's time to look at what favors Houston, which could help get this team to the upper echelons of the teams in the NFL. First and foremost, you got a quarterback on a rookie deal, which means you don't have to sink a bunch of capital into one position. You got a damn good quarterback at that. And since 2010, quarterbacks has appeared in Super Bowls on rookie deals. So that's favorable. Right? Got the likes of Cam Newton, Russell Wilson, Big Ben, Tom Brady, Eli. Some of those guys are Hall of Famers, no doubt Hall of Famer. One of those guys is the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, who sees a lot of himself and speaks highly of who? Your quarterback, which is on that rookie deal. This leads me to the next part. You got at least 69.5 million reasons why this team can be better. Houston has a ton of money that they can utilize to bring back key impact players, but also invest into key areas where they need upgrades in a free agent class that features a good linebacker class, a good running back class, and a few good safeties. I don't think they'll lose out on both Bobby Sloak and Gerard Johnson. So Houston also has some good coaching on the coaching staff that we don't talk about enough here in Houston. So the coaching for Houston moving forward will be solid. And that part of the franchise will continue to improve, highlighted by D'Amico Ryans, who I think players would just outright simply would want to come to Houston to play for. So when you have the leadership from both the head coach and quarterback, right? You just heard what Will Anderson said about CJ Stroud, and keep your head up, wipe the tears away. We'll be back. Those two areas where you need it the most, you got that leadership from, you have the money to spend and fill voids and improve and upgrade in positions that will help better this foundation. Yeah, you sit back and you think to yourself, in a crucial offseason, this team should be looked at and discussed in a different light now moving forward. That is why, those are my reasons why I believe, Houston is set up because of what they were able to accomplish this year. Quarterback, head coach, quarterback, trading up for Will Anderson, and they got good pieces. You bring them back. You got the money, but you got leadership. You got footballers. You got guys that believe in one another that will make the sacrifices. It ain't all about the flashy lights. It's about winning. So now you're looking at the Houston Texans with a much better culture than what they've had in the previous 4 to 5 years.
And John, I think that's where I guess from the reporter aspect of it, I'm excited to see, and I'm going to keep count. So you got to remind me of this. Listeners, viewers, y'all remind me of this too. When free agency rolls around and we start hearing the Houston Texans sign this person, the Houston Texans sign this person, and even with trade season starting and you start to hear, this player, has said they would like to go to X amount of teams and the Houston Texans are one of the X amount of teams. I'm going to keep track how many times we hear a player say, I wanted to play under Coach D'Amico Ryans. I wanted to play with CJ. I wanted to play with Will Anderson. And I say that because I think I only heard that one time last offseason. That's when Jimmy Ward signed. And remember, we was all excited. We was all excited about D'Amico. And I remember him saying that he wanted to play with D'Amico because he saw his playing career elevate, just shoot through the roof in those last couple of seasons that he had in San Francisco. And those last 2 seasons that he had, Coach D'Amico Ryans was the defensive coordinator. And now it's like, okay, you take a look at a player like Jimmy, who is a solid example of Coach D'Amico Ryans teaching. But now you have an entire franchise that has an example of Coach D'Amico Ryans' impact on the culture and just having respectability and stuff around the team. And that's something that, this isn't breaking news, that the Houston Texans did not have. Shoot, even at times with Bill O'Brien.
They did not have it. No. They did not have it. And I think when you look at, and I don't want to harp on this, but one thing we know about NFL players, because they kind of like NBA players. NBA players pass around the same like 5 girls. NBA players, NFL players talk, right? And to be serious about it, NFL, hey man, how you feel about this guy as a coach? Do you respect him, or are you just playing right now for your money? Is he a guy that can lead you, or is it just you're just here to do your job and you're going on about your business? What is it? And that wasn't the case with no disrespect, but that wasn't the case with David Culley. It wasn't the case with Lovie Smith at the time that he's the coach of the NFL now, not 20 years ago, but now. That was not the case with Bill O'Brien for a lot of players. So, yeah, you look at Houston in the past and they be like, man, why aren't we able to get key free agents? Right? During the Bill O'Brien, you got Deshaun Watson, you had JJ. They were not able to necessarily get in key free agents, and it didn't draft well in the later rounds. But now you ask yourself, okay, well, how's Nick Caserio for real? Oh no, he's okay. All right. How was D'Amico? He's like that for real, so it ain't just for show. Okay. How was CJ? It's not a show. No, he's really like that. He's a leader for real. Will, okay, okay. All right, you know what? I'm my agent. See what they're talking about. And that's the difference between going 4-12 with Deshaun, 4-12 with Davis and Tyrod, 3-13-1 with Tyrod. I mean, with Davis and Kyle Allen and Jeff Driscoll and that nonsense. The 10-7 in the playoff win. When you get players that buy in, a whole lot can change. Perfect example. They did it by way of draft. Just look at Detroit. Look at Detroit. Look at how consistently the San Francisco 49ers have been. Right? Look at how guys look and revere Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. These are some culture-changing, culture-establishing guys. And the Texans have that now. So I do wholeheartedly expect for them to be able to get some of these bigger impact free agent players and retain some of their own impact players. I know the Texans are not playing no more, so you may not need Texans tickets for a while, but you got the Rockets. Astros will be kicking up soon. Valentine's Day is on the way. It's around the corner. You may want to get out, get your, I don't know, you may want to get your ticket to a different event. You can do that with Game Time, the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all of the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. And right now, all new users get $100 off when you buy a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. We got zone deals. You pick the section. Game Time picks the seats for big time savings. You got Game Time guarantee, which means you'll get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets right now, guys. It shouldn't be harder. Work smarter. Right now, all Game Time users get $100 off a big game ticket with code Vegas100. Terms apply. Just download the Game Time app. Use code Vegas, VEGAS 100 for $100 off a big game ticket. Or if you're not going to the game, use code Locked On for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Game Time today. That app. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Welcome back in, ladies and gentlemen, to this Tuesday installment of Locked On Texans. Look, we talk a lot about the positivity. You know, we talk a lot about what the Houston Texans can do in the offseason in terms of free agency. Of course, later on, we'll really start diving into draft talk, which, by the way, think about it, John. It is January 22nd as we record this podcast, 2024. And we have yet to hold one conversation about the draft. I just wanted to throw that in there because last year around week 6 we was already all right. Let's look ahead to the 2023 draft.
Who's the quarterback?
Who's the quarterback? But for real, but Texans have had a lot of success in 2023, one of the best seasons in franchise history. 10 games going all the way to the divisional round. However, starting today, I really do think the hard work really begins, especially considering that the Houston Texans are now on everybody's radar. And when you look at their schedule, I know we haven't talked about this yet, but as of right now, we look at the opponents that they have for 2024. It's a tough schedule, especially considering that they're going to go up against 5 teams: the Lions, Bills, Ravens, Kansas City, and Dallas. I hope that's a Thanksgiving game, by the way, and Dallas, to where those teams won their division. And the ones that still playing, like the Lions, like the Ravens, Kansas City, they can very well win a Super Bowl title. So this schedule is going to be daunting. But, in order for you to be great, in order for you to be the best, you got to beat some of the best.
Yeah. And I think Houston did a good job of that this year, beating some of the better guys. Yeah, absolutely. They are on the radar. I fully expect for Houston to, every primetime game the New York Jets have this year.
Oh, my God. That was ridiculous.
The Texans should have the same amount.
No, not many, because a lot of primetime games at night. And I don't,
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what.
Night games.
I'd rather watch. I'd probably rather watch Davis Mills in primetime than have to watch that Zach Wilson in primetime.
That is true.
But the Texans should definitely have at least 4 primetime games. At least
definitely.
4.
I'm calling it right now. Thanksgiving Day game, Dallas versus Texans at Jerry World, of course. But
that would be huge. That would be huge. But I'll tell you, the thing about Houston being on the radar, man, they just got the quarterback for it.
Mm-hmm. And Will Anderson, they got the defensive cornerstone.
They got defensive cornerstones. You got Stingley, you got Will Anderson, Christian Harris, I believe, has worked his way into a real cornerstone.
Oh yeah.
But this is a quarterback's league.
Yeah.
And it'll be easier to sell receivers top weapons on, hey, you know what, we can get you down here, and you have a quarterback too. Comparing to selling them on, well, we got this, so we may have to pay you more. They got the quarterback for it, and that's who's putting Houston on their radar, man. I'm excited to see what happens this offseason. I'm excited to see what new opportunities Bobby Slowick may take or he may return. I think Houston needs to make sure that they retain quarterbacks coach here, Gerard Johnson and Shane Day and Bill Lazor. They need to keep that coaching staff intact for another year at least. But this team is on the radar, and you guys should be damn happy about it. So it's a good day, a good time, a good era to walk into if you're a Texans fan. I tell you that. Thank you guys for listening to today's episode. Please subscribe, like, and comment to the Locked On Texans podcast on YouTube. Give us a follow on Twitter at Locked On Texans. Give me a follow on Twitter at John_Hickman12.
And as always, I'm your host, Cody M. Davis. Please remember to follow me on Twitter at CodyDavis_24. Once again, that's Cody COTYDAVIS_24. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for rocking with us throughout this whole entire season, man. It's been fun. Definitely the best season John and myself had covering this team. But even though it's the off season, work doesn't stop for us. And now, like John said, this is the fun time, trying to come up with different ways on what the Houston Texans need to do in order to take that next step of greatness. But look, you could take my word with a grain of salt, or you could keep me to it. Whatever you look at it, this team is definitely on the trajectory of greatness, man. And, just make sure you keep us along for the ride. That's all I'm asking.
Oh, yeah. But I wonder if Calvin really will be a Texan at some point. He's a free agent.
He is.
Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.